I believe the more that we are able to discover and learn of one another's cultures, we're able to embrace one another into a collective. And ultimately, that is the purpose of the intention of why I create these videos. It's in order to revolutionize the consciousness of your mind and of your spirit for who you are. And speaking of who you are as a human being, you should never surrender yourself to change who you are as a human being, to craft yourself to become something that you're not. You should never surrender yourself and accept yourself, accept who you are as a human being, to fit into the mold of your own perception of who you are as a human being. And you should never care or even have a consideration of care in this world of what others might think of you through their perception of you or their judgments of you. You should embrace who you are and be proud of who you are. And you should never surrender yourself in order to conform to the social standards of others, of what they think of you, or of how they want you to be, or what their desire or intentions of you to ever change in order to fit into their status quo of their expectations of you and their standards of you. And regardless or not, if you are a good person or not, you should always stick to your standards. You should always stick to your standards and embrace who you are as a human being. What we seem to have in this world, in today's modern generation, is borders that divide countries and that ultimately divide the world, as well as we have within our own home front, within our own United States, we have walls between neighbors, we have fences, like high foot fences, walls that divide neighbors and of our inside of our own community as well. I cannot even begin to express just how disgusting that truly is, just how disappointing that is to me personally as a human being, that coexists among nature, among other human beings, and of communities, of society, of the entire human civilization, of our human race. And that truly is discouraging. That truly is disappointing to me, to be honest. And as much as I believe in God, and I am of someone who is a spiritualist, that is truly even more disappointing to me of how our values seem, our principles as human beings seems to be wavered. It seems to be meaningless. Meaningless in a perspective that how we should actually work towards the progression throughout the journey of this life to constantly improve ourselves as human beings. We should never hold ourselves back or even hesitate or even have a slightest notion of regrets for who you are as a human being. Furthermore, you should constantly work towards the light and perfection as close as possible. And we are all soldiers on this battlefield. And what we are fighting up against, and what we are fighting up against is the constant wave of and oceans of obstacles and darkness that exists inside of our world today, of all the corruption that exists within mankind, within human beings. Rather, instead, we could actually rise above our obstacles and rise above the demons in order to improve ourselves to become greater than yourselves, to become something vibrant, something versatile, and for you to constantly work towards perfecting your obstacles, perfecting your imperfections, and for us to take and invest that responsibility deep within ourselves to become a greater human being. Because this is absolutely ridiculous. Quite frankly, this is bullshit. And within our own communities, within our own 21st century, we're living inside of the 21st century. Rather, instead, our minds should not be stagnant. Our minds should, our state of mind and our psychology and who we are as human beings, we should rise above and become greater every single day of our lives. We constantly work towards that progression in this journey inside of this world with each day as we become something greater. And rather, instead, we have borders, boundaries, limitations. We have high-foot fences, electric fences. We have walls to divide one another. And it's bad enough that inside of this society, of the structure of our society, no one even really has motivation or that slightest determination for us to help one another, for us to improve ourselves through our self-discovery and our self-improvements in becoming a greater human being, becoming something even more and above and beyond than just an ordinary, mediocre human being. It's horrible enough that we have so many people in this world that understand, that has a lack of understanding or comprehension and or the tolerance and the virtues of diversity, of tolerance, of open-mindedness, of us to, we should more embrace one another rather than to be divided for our differences. We should actually embrace our similarities and work together in a collective and in equality to push forward and push out, push beyond the limits, the limitations of who you are as a human being. You do not have to any longer be just an ordinary human being. You could be something. You could be something vibrant, something versatile. So rather than to be divided, we need to focus more of our energy and put forth our time into the investment of helping one another, and especially within our own local communities as well, and for us to help each other as best as possible to the best and the greatest of our abilities, that we are able to share the light with one another and share a positive influence. And there should be no such existence as anything to divide us as human beings. We should actually be more focused on becoming embraced and befriending one another and working past our differences and working past our differences that divide us. And we should work upon how to perfect our and overcome our obstacles and perfect our imperfections as human beings. And as a patriot, as a soldier, I believe that to being open-minded and having a versatile and positive state of mind, as well as being someone who is universal in your state of mind, is one of the best things to have, and important things to have, and important traits as a human being. And as a human being, I take pride in myself to accept myself to be a human being. So we need to constantly develop ourselves into the positive perspective of ourselves as human beings. We need to invest that light that exists within ourselves in order to contribute our time and efforts and our energy into creating a pathway of a brighter future for our world today, for a modern world, and help the world and help one another to become greater, become more positive, instead of focusing all of our energy and our attention on the negative aspects of our world today. And we need to be more responsible for who we are as human beings and for who we are to develop ourselves and to share a positive influence and inspire the world for the positive. And if anything else, we need to we don't need to be divided in our minds and to be divided physically, spiritually, and to be divided in any way possible. We actually need to be more embraced into a collective and embraced to a peaceful tranquility for us to work together in our common grounds and share our virtues of our principles and morals, and for us to we ourselves to become greater individuals and human beings, for us to ultimately share a positive influence and inspiration throughout the world, and for us to embrace different cultures, and for us to help one another. So ultimately that's what the main focal point of the intention of this video in particular was to help inspire, maybe if possible, millions of people, or maybe if even that, or a couple people, and for us to, instead of fighting amongst one another, instead of us as human beings constantly being divided and drowning ourselves within our apathy and within the negative influences that we are constantly being influenced on almost a daily basis, on a regular basis, by the corruption and evils of our world today, and for us to face our fears and to face ourselves for who we are, and to become greater than ourselves, and for us to work together. So thank you for watching, and please subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys next time.